Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on this very hot and sunny Friday afternoon. As we said in our intro, thank furlough it's Friday, and I'm sure you've all had quite a lot of furloughing to do over the last week, and I'm hoping you find that you understand it all now. But I am pleased to have with me today, as always, well, nearly always, Jacquie Mount, who's with us again today because I know you're going to have some more questions, but she has been sitting up for the last goodness knows how many hours looking at all the new stuff that's come out of HMRC, trying to figure out what it all means so that she can tell you about it. So, good afternoon, Jacquie.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you all again. Thank furlough it's Friday. I echo that one.
I think that one's going to stick.
Yeah.
Oh, Steph Busby says it's not hot and sunny in deepest Devon. It's a bit cloudy. Sorry about that, Steph, but you get a lot of good weather down there. You know, you've got to let us have it sometimes. But anyway, so but nice to hear from you, Steph. So, Jacquie, what are you going to hit us with first?
Right. Okay. HMRC issued some updated guidance yesterday afternoon. Same documents. You'll have seen them by now. I think we put links up to them on the website. I think possibly on the COVID-19 hub. But there are some things that have cropped up that are worthwhile pointing out. It's worthwhile flicking through all of the links just to see if there's anything that affects you. I'm getting quite a lot of queries coming through from members, some quite detailed queries actually, and I'm trying to get answers back from HMRC, but I haven't had anything yet, but I'm keeping in touch with those who've got individual queries and amending our advice and guidance as things change. As we've said from day one, the only thing we can say is that this is how the situation is at this particular moment, so it might change. What's the best way to do this? Right, a couple of questions that have cropped up over the last couple of weeks, first of all. One is to do with the furlough calculator. Now, when Julia was on from Sage last week, she was talking about their new tool, which is helping you to calculate that. I actually went through the calculator this morning and put some sample queries. So what I basically did is I went for a full-time employee on, say, £3,500 in the hope that it would return back £2,500 maximum furlough pay. And I put in claiming from the 1st of March to the 30th of April. And I claimed for 2 pay dates based on the 28th of March and the 28th of April, which seemed to me to be a pretty routine date that you're going to claim for monthly employees. I was quite surprised at what came back because March was less than £2,500 and the April claim was more than £2,500. And I think that is because they're basing it on a daily rate. Now, I know that some of the software packages are coming up with slightly different averaging calculations, and I think that's possibly because HMRC may have changed the way they're doing their calculations. So do be careful, and it's worthwhile if you're doing your own calculations for furloughing back at the 80%, having a look at the calculator and seeing what it returns for your particular dates. Now, at the moment, it's still very basic. It only does those who are on a standard monthly or weekly pay. There are no variations allowed, and if you've got variable pay, then it just says, sorry, we can't deal with this at this stage. So worthwhile going in and having a look at that one and checking your figures. I think there are an awful lot of spreadsheets being designed at the moment around the country.
Yeah.
Thousands of them, I would imagine.
Whilst you're thinking, can I jump into a question here from Joe Wheeler? I have a sole trader client who's received the £10,000 grant from the council. He's been asked to advise his income for universal credits. Can I confirm that the £10,000 should be included in this income?
Yeah, I think it does have to be. We did, because it is taxable income. And we did, excuse me, we did say from the start that this income may very well affect your universal credits. And it may be that if you're getting universal credits based because you've been on a very low income, that might have to be paid back at some stage. We know that advance payments have got to be paid back, but as I understand it, and universal credits is not one of my areas that I know I've delved into too much. But yeah,
I mean, it's an income, isn't it? At the end of the day,
it's taxable income.
So Joe Wheeler, hope that's okay for you. A quick question for Jacquie regarding claiming staff on furlough. What happens if a member of staff is furloughed for over 3 weeks and you claim for that for 3 weeks? Oh, only to find that the member of staff is to come off furlough in another week or so. For example, if you don't know when an employee is due to come off furlough, but in hindsight, they're furloughed for 5 weeks. If you claim for the first 3 weeks as soon as possible, are you then able to claim for the remaining 2?
Yes, you can. Yeah, it's a minimum of 3 weeks and you can claim whenever you want to claim. So what I think is the best thing to do is to have a look at your pay dates and claim for a period which runs from the day after a pay date to the next pay date. And providing that your furlough period is consecutive, continuous, sorry, you can claim. You don't have to claim every 3 weeks. That's fine, as long as there's not a break. If there is a break, then you have to claim. One thing while we're on furlough pay that has come up in the updated guidance yesterday is about holiday pay. Now, this one's been going around for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
I've got some comments, I put some comments somewhere. It is in there. Basically, as I understand it, and it's me just reading through it this morning, so if anybody doesn't agree with my interpretation of it, please come back and let me know. If you have somebody who you agree will take holiday during the furlough period, you can pay them the full, you must pay them the full amount, but you can still claim back the grant for the 80%. And the same thing happens to the 2 bank holidays over Easter. We were humming and hawing about this. We had a member whose client wants her staff to take Good Friday and Easter Monday as bank holidays. And somebody queried that that was a break in the furlough. And I think if you read the guidance in there, it doesn't break the furlough, but you have to pay them the full amount. You have the choice of either topping up their pay to their full amount and claiming back the 80%, or rolling the holiday forward and then giving them a holiday at a later stage. But I think it's something that's, like the furlough itself, probably needs to be agreed. Because if you furlough them and get 80% and then they take a paid holiday later, they are going to be better off and the business is probably going to be slightly worse off. So that was that one. Next one I've got, while Gary's going down the questions, directors. What can directors do? Now, I've had a look again. Again, there's some guidance in the updated stuff from HMRC. Under the Companies Act, directors, we know that directors can't do anything income generating, but we did talk about them making calls to their clients just to keep in touch, or whether they can run payroll. Now, the guidance specifically states, and I'm actually going to read it, that directors cannot provide services to or on behalf of their company whilst they are furloughed. Now, it's a question of whether you think of running a payroll as a service to the company, which it could very well be. I don't know. It's still not clear. Gary, sorry.
I know. The interpretation I got, and I was speaking to somebody from HMRC, not about this, but it is that if you're providing a service to your clients, you certainly can't be. But if you're servicing the business, then fair enough. I think where the 3-week rule for people working a payroll came in is where a staff member who is providing payroll can be furloughed, but comes off for a week in order to be able to put through the salary for everybody else, not just for themselves. Yes. So I think it's a grey area, but I don't think it's one that's going to come under too much scrutiny as long as
I think my gut reaction is that regardless of the wording in the Companies Act, these are such special circumstances, and the regulations will catch up later. I've spoken to both Ian and Claire about this, who have both been on there, our payroll specialists, and they've both agreed with me that the regulations they are doing the regulations, but they will catch up at a later stage. So let's hope we don't get caught with anything, but it should be fine.
Yeah, we had one recently, member who had a client who was a motivational person, and they had a group of clients to whom they were sort of they rang them up on a regular basis and they talked things through, motivated them through. Now, I think that person would find it very difficult to be able to say they were just ringing them up to say hello, because I think that would be part of the service that they offer. So with the best will in the world, what I said to our member is, no, they're not going to just ring up and say, how are you? Because that's what they do as part of their job. They're ringing up to mentor people. So that wouldn't be allowed. So the fact that this man wanted to be furloughed, but still make regular contact with all his mentoring clients, I said, I think you have to, and I think it's something that the member knew, but just wanted clarification. So I think we agreed that one. But
quick question from Maggie here about the furlough and the holiday. I think I've just answered that. They can ask them to take a holiday. It doesn't affect the furlough claim, but they must pay them the full 100%. Kevin, VAT deferral question. Can you confirm whether the May VAT return is included in this? Yes, the May VAT return deferral is included. That goes way back to week 1, that question with that.
Universal credit, another question from Deborah Hinson.
Well, if you're not paying yourself, your income's down, and therefore your universal credit hopefully should go up, but will adjust itself at a later stage, as I understand it. If you can't actually afford to pay yourself, that was the idea of getting people to apply very quickly to universal credit, very quickly to universal credits to get you through this, but there will be an adjustment at the end of the year. So
that was Deborah Hinson. Ruth Bramley, now this one, where a director is only paid once a year, and that just happened to be on the 31st of the 3rd. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, really? I mean, I think they were trying to give a cut-off date so that this sort of thing wasn't used indiscriminately or incorrectly.
I'm wondering if you could base it on the annual salary for the previous 31st, because you're going back a year. Can you not average it on what they were paid on the 31st of March 2019?
I mean, they'll have a PAYE reference, presumably
as
from
long
you
as
before they're on there. So I think you would do that.
The thing is, if it's a new company and they've taken no money until the 31st of March 2020, then no, they won't be, because if that is the first RTI submission, they're not covered.
No.
Right, okay, we're starting to get onto deferral applications. Before I do that, there was one question that came through the other day, I don't know if the person's on, about what happens if you don't have a corporation or UTR reference number. When you're making the claim, I think this was for a small charity or a church council where they were employing people and paying them, but they don't have tax returns. Apparently, the first 3 questions on the application ask for your numbers, and I have seen on HMRC that if you don't have those, if you answer no to the first 3 questions, then you'll get through and you can make the claim anyway based on your PAYE reference. This one says the couple with a self-assessment reference in the corporation tax reference box, will it affect it? Difficult to say, really. Hopefully not, but these things, if you haven't got the right, it's a bit like our exams that are online and are marked by a computer. If you don't get the exact right answer, I'm sorry, you're not going to get the correct mark. And I'm just wondering if this is the same. If you've got the wrong information in there, and if it rejects it, then it might reject it automatically, in which case you're going to have to ring them and try and sort something out. Also, as far as online claim for furloughs, we had a question earlier this week or last week, I'm losing track, of what happens if you've got somebody under the age of 16 with no national insurance number. That's in the updated guidance. What you have to do is you have to ring HMRC and make the application over the telephone. You don't have national insurance numbers. That's what the guidance says. Now, that came up earlier in the week.
Another question from Catherine Pearce on maternity leave. It seemed to be a common theme running through all of this, doesn't it, really? Maternity leave until the 1st of September 2019. We didn't pay them any money for this, as they don't do enough. They were then paid a small wage from September onwards. Am I just using the 6 months, September to February, to calculate furlough pay, or am I supposed to?
Right, I've got this on my list of things to raise. Actually, again, please check it in the guidance. There is a comment in the new guidance about statutory maternity pay. And what it says is if somebody is coming back, you calculate their wage based on their old salary, not the reduced salary they got because they were on maternity leave. However, what is in the guidance is that if they are going on to maternity leave, say next month or June or something, their maternity pay of 90% will be based on what they're actually paid, including the lower furloughed amount. So it may very well reduce their statutory maternity pay in the first 6 weeks, because it will be based on 90% of what they earn in the relevant period. So this one is going to affect people who are going to go on maternity leave, possibly even after the furlough comes off and it finishes. Just depends on the dates. So SMP.
Can you see the one from Helen there? Hi, Helen. Thank you very much for bringing this in.
Yes.
I don't quite understand that one.
Our practice had this decision.
But I think that could be Venus and Mars, as they say.
Yes, that's right. They can claim back 80% for a bank holiday and top up the 20%. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You pay the employees 100% for the bank holidays, claim back the 80%, and then pay them full pay for the bank holidays and 80% for the rest of the week. So the cost to the company is the 20% extra to top them up because they're taking leave in the furlough period, plus any additional LI and pension contributions. So yeah, that's correct, that one.
So if you afford it, that's the best thing to do, because otherwise that day will be carried forward.
Yeah, and really whether you want to carry bank holidays forward, I don't know. Heather, I think I've just answered that one actually. Your NI for unders. That one from Barry is probably something for anybody else. It's not something I've actually seen yet. We know you can do it in theory. Barry, has anyone managed to submit a claim for adding back employees that were previously submitted as leavers but qualify to be added back on the payroll for furlough? That needs coming from members. In fact, I haven't actually done a claim, so if anyone's been in that situation, we'd be very grateful, possibly to hear via email for you, or in here, or an email to member services, and we'll get that one out.
Yeah. Anna's saying, I have tried to do a furlough for a director who's paid annually on the portal, and it comes up with not eligible to claim.
This is something we did talk about as to what happens. It's because within the last, it's whether they've got an RTI. I don't know. I'd have to. I think this is because you're paying monthly, you're claiming monthly, but paying annually, and there is no RTI information each month. I mean, this is, we've said this before, Garry, haven't we? This might change the way directors take their money out.
Yeah, I mean, and if they are used to taking it out annually, perhaps they're thinking, well, take it out annually at the end of next year then, because you'll have had it. Well, you should have had this amount. I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Oh, Alan, thank you. I asked the question, read the charity reference. I've just been on a web chat with HMRC and got the same answer, so that sounds sensible. I'm so glad.
Yes.
It's nice when you get it right sometimes, isn't it? Thanks, Alan.
HMRC
would not accept the claim for a previous member of staff re-employed and furloughed, as the total staff on the last ITI was 15 and the claim is 16. How do we get, right, okay, that's going to be one for me to contact HMRC. Alternatively, it might be one that you have to do online. It's going to take me a while to get back. I've sent 3 emails off to HMRC with queries. I've had a lovely acknowledgement that it's been posted on up the line and heard nothing else back. But
Lee Scott has come up with a query which just goes to prove that there are so many different clients out there. This is why they need bookkeepers, you see. They're overcomplicating life in general. You know, our stalwart ICB bookkeepers are always there to sort it out. So if a client who employs staff based on hours pays holiday when the employee takes them, i.e. they accrue their holiday entitlement in March, April, May, whilst being furloughed, and say 10 hours, and then the employer would normally pay those 10 hours when the employee takes them. say July, can we add those hours amounts to the CGRS?
Sorry,
claim?
Gary, which one's that? I was looking at one of Faye's.
Lee Scott.
Lee. A client person post holiday when yes, because you can take holiday during furlough, you can claim back the 80% of once you work out what their holiday pay is going to be, but you've got to top it up by the 20%. I don't know whether that answers your question, Lee. Base holiday and accrue holiday entitlement. So if they're taking it in July, and if the furloughing reclaim is still valid until July, you work out what you're going to pay them for holiday, pay them and claim back 80%. If we're still in the furlough situation by then, Lee.
I hope, Lee, you haven't got some inside information there, because I'm hoping by July this is probably going to be a little bit different to what we're doing at the moment, but who knows? Yeah,
I think we've got an issue. There's one here about an apprentice that doesn't run the payroll as payments are below the LEL. The trouble is, I think all the guidance on apprentices is based on larger companies who are putting them all through payroll. I think if you have a single apprentice and you're paying them and you've not set up a payroll because you didn't need to because they're being paid below the LEL, then I don't think there's very much you can do about it. It's a difficult, that's from Charles Jenkinson. It's a difficult Charles. Comment. An employer has said to me that his employer's allowance has been rejected for £4,000 for 2021. He has no idea of state aid. Any comment? Again, this is on my list to mention. There's a lot of discussion on this state aid, this de minimis. The employment allowance is a de minimis state aid, which means that if you are getting state aid from another source, once you've reached a maximum figure, then it will reduce your employer's allowance for the year. However, what is confusing me about this, there are two things. One is that as far as I read it, there are only 4 sectors for which this applies, de minimis state aid. And those are road transport, agriculture, fishery, and one other. But I don't know, Faye, why that's been rejected. We did have confirmation from Sage earlier this week that the someone was saying, I think when I was on Monday, that you have to get a letter before you can claim the employment allowance. You will be sent a letter allowing you to claim it, but you can claim it through your software before that letter arrives. Now, Julia did confirm that from Sage. That's come through from the Sage technical team. Why it's been rejected, you'd have to ask if it's, is it a sole director company, because they won't be eligible for it. We've had a conversation about that in the last day or so.
Yeah.
I think that's something you're going to have to go back to HMRC, Faye, and the employees and ask why it's not been granted.
It sounds as if he could be a director, sole director or something like that, because we've come across that this morning, haven't we?
Yeah.
I have a self-employed client who started trading on the 1st of November 2016, says Cat Cowan. Tax returns submitted for 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. Client reckons when calculating his average profits, he can add up profits from when he started and divide by 3. I'm wondering if the first year will not count, as he was not self-employed for over half the time, even though he was self-employed full-time from the 1st of November. I think it may be divided by 2 and 5 twelfths.
Difficult to say how they're going to do that. I think we haven't had sufficient guidance. What it says is you add up your self-employment income averaged over the self-assessment tax returns. It has to be more than 50% of your income, and it has to be less than £50,000 to qualify. So the answer is to that is, sorry, I think we're going to have to wait. mid-May is when they're going to start contacting people about the grants. And I have a funny feeling at that stage when you apply for it, or when they tell you what you're going to get, you'll have...
I mean, I think the calculation of 2 years and 5/12 makes sense. And on the basis that if it makes sense, you're not going to get penalised for having made the decision if it's wrong, other than they might want a bit of money back. But yeah, you wouldn't aggregate it over 3 years, would you? Because then that would include time when there was no self-employment.
The thing is, it's saying that this is the difference between his average profits being over or under 50,000, so he's rather important.
Yeah, okay.
Difficult on that one.
You can buy on that one.
Can I just, while we're looking at this, can I just go back to one bit of information here that I've got that I need to put across? On the updated guidance, there is a new link that's come up that please, I would like everybody to look at. And it's the one that says reporting payments in PAYE, RTI from the job retention scheme. Now, I've got an email out to the software companies on this to see how they've interpreted it. But there is something that I want to read to you from the guidance. It's talking about paying the grant to your employees. Hang on. Now, there is a lot of information here about what happens if you haven't yet paid them, and what happens if you've only paid them the 20% top up. Now, rather than go into it, I'd like people to read that, because it will answer some of the questions about what you need to put on your RTI and when you need to put it on the RTI. But there is one particular sentence that says, I'm just trying to see it. Sorry. Oh yes, I'm going to read this out. If you're using the grant to pay wages, any grant paid to you is to be used to pay wages to your furloughed employees and should be treated in the same way as any wage payment and is subject to all payroll deductions, which we're aware of. The grant should be reported to HMRC via real-time information through your payroll software on or before the date that it is paid to your employees. And the software companies should be putting something in their software to do this. Now, I got very confused about this, and like a lot of HMRC stuff, it's actually not the clearest bit of information that's come out. And I've asked Julia if she can look into this for us. I cannot see, it specifically seems to say to me that if you get your grant, you have to report it on your RTI. But I think it's still, you get the grant to pay your wages, and that's what you report to RTI. But if someone else wants to read that and maybe over the weekend and come up with a different interpretation, we'll ask the software companies how they do that. That's the one on the RTI that's come out. Yes, Kevin said, could I raise the issue of nurseries again? Nurseries is going round and round. I did not realise how many of our members deal with early cares provision and nurseries. Nurseries can get funding from the LEA for certain children and for certain roles and jobs and services that they offer. And that has been paid to cover the whole of the summer term. And we've had a lot of questions coming in about how you actually work out what they're doing on furlough and what else should happen. And this is, I've got this out to HMRC. So what Kevin has said is, we've spoken to HMRC and they said we should use the February total income from parents and government, divide parent income by the total to get the percentage, and apply this percentage to the 80%. So basically what's happening is you have to look at the percentage of income from parents and the income from your LEA grants. And it's the percentage of the income from parents, which is what you furlough, and then claim 80% of that. Now, I understand that as being the fact that because you've got funding for the LEA bit, you should use that to pay your employees that section of their wage, of their pay. Because if you don't, they're only going to receive 80% of the income from the parents that are paying themselves. I've gone to HMRC about this, but we know that there are individuals who are giving our members slightly different advice to that, supposedly qualified individuals, not ICB members. And as Garry has said from day one, you need to be very, very careful about the instructions or advice that you get from either clients or other individuals involved, and be very, very careful. I don't know whether Garry wants to come back on that without going into.
Well, it's a sort of a general point, isn't it? I mean, there are a lot of people who make money from being advisors, and they've got various webinars at the moment, and I think you just have to look at it in an ethical way. Do you think it feels right? Are you sure this is correct? COVID is no different to any other decision you made. But talking about information not being quite correct, Jacquie, I think you've got a bit of an ironic one from all our members who rely heavily upon their software.
Oh, yes.
I gather Xero has got a few wrinkles with its code.
Some of the softwares, possibly Xero, but I don't know. I have to say I'm waiting to hear back from Sage. I have had some contact from members who are using Xero Payroll, and the figures that are coming back are slightly different to the average, to the furlough figures that the HMRC calculator are giving. So I think you've got to be quite careful about this, and you may have to do a manual adjustment until the software companies catch up. I think that might be because the guidance that HMRC gave out for calculating based on the daily rate may be different from what everybody thought it would be at the start, and maybe the software companies are still trying to reprogram to catch up. So,
well, we've got Glenn Foster from Xero coming on as a guest on Monday, so he might be able to tell us about that.
Yeah. Barry's come back. Barry Peake's come back. Have a client that has 48 employees, of which 5 were leavers, but added back onto the system. Now tells me they only have 43 eligible employees. HMRC on the phone says that they are not eligible as the RTI was submitted to add them back on or after the 19th of March. That's absolutely true, because you have to have them on the payroll prior to the 19th of March. So we knew that anybody who was employed up to the 28th of February and had been taken on again was eligible. And we knew that anyone who was taken on the 1st of March and furloughed was eligible, provided that an RTI had been submitted by the 19th of March. And I said Monday or last week that concerns me. Actually, I raised it last Thursday with HMRC, because that cuts out everyone who was employed on the 1st of March and is paid monthly. And that follows the rules, Barry, because if they were taken back on as new employees and furloughed, that RTI had to be in before the 19th. Now, unfortunately, the information didn't come out until the 20th. So again, there are some gaps that people are falling down between. Really sorry, but that is how it works, I'm afraid.
Brilliant. Nicholas says, I've submitted a claim for a church, so no UTR number.
Yeah.
Said no to first few questions. It's gone through okay. So
yeah, you'd say no to the first 3. If you've got no UTR, you've got no corporation tax, but you do have a PAYE reference, you just answer no to the early questions. So thank you for that.
We have tried to claim for companies where an employee started during March and became the RTI. And because the RTI has not been submitted, the system said we were trying to claim for more employees than were recorded. We're waiting on HMRC Tech Department to phone back, says Joyce. Please let us know what happens when that one comes back. But yeah,
that is the rule. They were adamant, the Chancellor was adamant that the RTI had to have been made by the 19th of March, and a lot of people are still not, well, a percentage of people are still not covered on that one.
Comes back. Sorry, question disappeared. Or B, profits added up and divided by 2 and 5/12, i.e. just take profits averaged over the time the business has been in existence. I thought that's what was the first option as well. So
yeah, I think, Kat, the answer to that is going to have to wait till May, because until they start to actually contact you with your grant, HMRC will have your self-assessment. They know what the income is. They know what the self-assessments are. And there should be a formula which calculates it for you. And then you appeal if you don't agree with it, is my view. But until that comes out in May, we still don't know what that portal is going to look like.
Trisha's got a dodgy one. My client is
Yeah.
a chiropractor. If required for emergency an appointment, can he still claim furlough? So he's got to be on standby, but
I think if you're working, you can't claim. I think the rules are.
I think they were saying this about dentists the other evening on the BBC News about dentists not being able to do their work anymore. But some people in practices are remaining open for emergencies, but they obviously can't be furloughed. So, yeah,
I think if you've got to practice, it's okay, because you could have people on a rota system in a dentist. I think actually that might be what our local dentist is doing, because I know that they are still taking emergency appointments. And I'm wondering if they're putting people on a rolling 3-week rota for furloughing and having one person in or at a time. But I know in other areas, there was a rather uncomfortable interview with a young man who decided to do his own dentistry, which I'm not even going to.
Oh, I saw that, yes.
Oh.
I'm sure he painted on the end of that tooth. There was surely.
No, I know, it's just.
yeah, not very nice at all. Pauline says, hi, my husband's company has an employee on long-term sick leave. He was being paid full pay for a few months, but he's now only on SSP. Is it possible for them to take him off SSP and furlough him so that he gets his 80% of wages? What then happens when the furlough scheme ends?
The problem is, if it's not, this furloughing is only for COVID-19. And I have a nasty feeling that if it's not COVID-19 related, it doesn't fall in, it's not for everybody. Because if you're not able to work anyway, then I'm not sure you can furlough someone. You have to put them on sick pay. The detail does say you can bring them off and sick pay and put them on furlough, but that is all to do with people who have been self-isolating and are in what's the word? I can't think of the word. Not self-isolating. It's the other one. It's gone. It's gone. Sorry, you know what I mean. I think you'd have to look at the illness and see if it would fall within the coronavirus. But my reaction is I don't think so, because it's not COVID-19 related. But I stand corrected. That might be the law.
Yeah, I mean, the law is that a person gets SSP. So if you're paying them full salary, that's your decision, isn't it? I just wonder whether you'd be expected to make up the difference anyway. So I don't know. It's a difficult one. Actually, the question from Liz here is a bit odd. Do you know?
Yeah, this state aid, de minimis state aid that I was talking about, is that there are certain areas of industry which are getting state aid anyway. So it's agriculture, fisheries, road transport, and industrial and other. So the industrial and other is £200,000. So if you are getting state aid and your state aid that you've received has gone above that particular figure, so for industrial and other, it's £200,000 in the year, then you can't claim your employer's allowance. So therefore, if you take the employer's allowance, and if the job retention scheme is considered to be de minimis state aid, which we're not sure it is, then you could go up to the £200,000. But I don't know whether that would cover the majority of our business. I don't know enough about state aid on that. And I think for a small business, I think you are unlikely to reach that limit anyway, even with the state aid that you're getting back, unless if you're a large company, then I think there are other places you can go to for help. Does that answer the question?
Have a client which the CGRS system is saying isn't eligible to claim because there were no employees on the payroll on the 19th of March. There were 4 employees on payroll. RT submissions sent 13th and 20th of March. Did webcam chat with 2 HMRC staff, confirm that they can see submissions. Interesting. It has been referred to a tier 3 technician, and I was supposed to be contacted within 48 hours.
Yeah.
HMRC haven't come back yet. Now over 48 hours. Would love to know if anyone else has experience of this. That's Bev Arnold. I know they're a bit busy. Might just be that, but
it may be worthwhile trying to go back into a chat and ask.
Yeah. Interesting they to see live submissions.
Phase come back. Employers Bulletin issue 83 today states that SSP claim will operate under the temporary state aid framework agreed with the European Commission. So the SSP claim that you can make is also a de minimis state aid. So all these grants that we're getting is being added up, and we've said right from the start that they'll be reconciled at some stage. So the SSP is another one that's going on there. So you're adding up your job retention, your I don't know about the grant, the LEA grant, I'm not sure that is, but the employer's allowance, SSP allowances, all that sort of thing.
Richard James says he had to take a client phone call as soon as Jacquie started speaking. How soon will this recording be available later? If Sobi is listening, she might be able to just...
I think it says 2 hours, actually.
Is it 2 hours?
Within 2 hours. It says on the, actually on there. I think I'm right, aren't I, Sobi?
Yeah, that's right.
2 hours, that's fantastic.
Richard, you didn't miss much. Don't worry.
Okay, I thought I to be helpline for this. Very helpful. My client may have to pay council money back as she has furloughed all her staff as guided by government originally. The council seems to be distributing funds to support nurseries almost like another type of funding. So councils are doing that, yeah, okay, well, I can see that. Actually, the councils have been giving a lot of money to try and help people out. So, I mean, Faye's down from Wales, if it's the right Faye we're talking about here, in which case Wales is a completely different system anyway, but yeah, I think that's good. Miss B. I think that going back to the previous question regarding percentage paid from grants, if you recall, the government said that people paid through the government would not be eligible for furlough. Therefore, I would agree with your interpretation on this. Thank you, Miss B.
That's because anybody who is working for local authorities and government departments aren't being furloughed because they're obviously still in work.
Right.
I don't know what that means.
No, that's all right.
Neither do I, Gary.
No. My Siri has just said that they don't know how to help us, so you can't even do it.
Angela says, hi, I've manually calculated furlough wage and pension, double-checked the figures on the HMRC calculator, and all agreed and submitted the claim. Now processing wages and employer pension in software is lower than the claim. Do I accept payroll figures, complete the FPS submission, but submit the higher rate to the pension company?
Are you going to name names, Angela? Which software are you using so that we can see if there's a common theme here?
So when it says you're processing your wages, why are you processing the wages? Oh, and the employer pension in the software is lower than the claim. Did you calculate the pension based on the full income, or did you calculate it over the lower earnings limit, over the lower earnings threshold? Because that might make a difference as to why your payroll is lower. And also, I'm still waiting for an answer from HMRC on net pay arrangement pension contributions as to how the calculation works. So it might be it's to do with the pension scheme there. Or are they paying more than 3%? Is the employer paying more than 3%?
Judith Siddle,
no.
If we're paying people full pay for bank holidays, does the minimum wage increase apply?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're paying somebody holiday, the minimum wage does apply for that day. Yes, Judith. Actually, I had a conversation with, I've been emailing Judith all week and speaking to Judith. Hi, Judith.
Usha says the word is shielding, Jacquie. And
thank you, Usha. Yes, knew I couldn't think of it. You're a darling. Thank you.
And Trish says, can you please clarify if had an RTI submission on the 29th of the 2nd, 2020?
If that should, it may be where you pressed enter too early. I would think if you had one of those, you should be able to claim. We'll wait for some more information to come out.
Charles Jenkinson.
Charles, does
R&D
R&D
tax credit?
I don't know. Can somebody come back with that? Does research and development tax credit count as state aid? There's got to be somebody out there who knows more about that than I do. So we'll see if we can get an answer. If someone knows about that, please let us know. HMRC have responded, just be patient.
Well done, Faye. You just be patient there. That's good.
Pauline, thanks for the reply. If the employee could be classed as shielding because he's had a major operation, could he be furloughed then? Yes, possibly, because he's shielding. Yeah, if he is, they can be furloughed. So if they can't go back to work because they are in that vulnerable situation, then yes, I think quite possibly they can be furloughed, as I say.
Yeah, Joyce has confirmed what I think we both guessed. HMRC have a lot more problems than I first thought. I phoned them again today after 4 days, and I'm being now told next week. Yeah, I mean, they've been inundated, I think. I don't think they expected it.
Faye, Trish, yes, sorry, Trish. Put through the last RTI submission 29th of the 2nd. My company did not go on furlough until the 23rd of March. Can we still claim for the furlough for March? If you are going to claim for March and April together, you backdate your furlough claim to the 23rd of March, and you will have been covered by 3 weeks to the end of April, because your furlough will be more than 3 weeks, and you can claim up to 14 days before. So if you put your calculation, your furlough claim into, say, the 30th of April, or whenever your payday is, the last payday, then yeah, you should be fine. Kirsty, thank you. They may be paying pension on WHOE rather than banded earnings. My knowledge of pension is not as good as it should be, I'm afraid. So I'm sure there is an answer there somewhere. Thanks, Faye. Thanks, Kirsty. So Asian is to calculate pension. Yeah, we've got lots of answers coming in here. If people can't see the questions and answers coming in, then I will collate these and put an answer up for you. On this.
Usher brings a point up here. Have I understood it correctly that 80% has to be up to the new living wage? No, that's you're paying the 100% because
no,
it's bank.
That's for holidays only. You'd have to pay the living wage for holidays, but if you're claiming the furlough, you claim it on the previous year's minimum wage. Oh, Tom, hi Tom. What happens if a member of staff is furloughed for 3 weeks and then you claim for that 3 weeks only to find out that the member of staff is to come off furlough in another week or so? The answer is that yes, you can claim for the full 5 weeks, Tom. We won't go through the whole thing if you can't see it. Yes, you can claim for the whole 5 weeks, and I think you claim it in your next pay run. As I understand it, you claim from date 1 to date 2, and the dates, then the next one will go from the day after that date to the next date, and you claim for all the furlough within that period. If it's consecutive, then you can claim for 3 weeks and 2 weeks, as I understand it.
And we've just had a note on the chat line from Sue Bruland saying, you guys are amazing. Thank you very much, Sue. That's
we love you.
And note from Facebook, Lynn Thornley. Bright Pay has a new report and section for furlough pay and runs a separate report. Okay.
I will bow to your better knowledge on this, because I don't do payroll myself anymore, so I don't have access to the software.
Yeah,
so
quite a few of our members actually use Bright Pay, so that will be good. And I think Tax Filer yesterday said they were doing a new report as well, didn't they? That was his world-beating information announcement that he was making, which wasn't quite world-beating, but he did say we probably over-egged that particular pudding.
I'm just quickly going through the rest of the HMRC updates that have come to see if there's anything else from this.
So while Jackie's doing that, just to remind you all that we have, first of all, on Monday, as I've just said, Glenn Foster from Xero will be on, talking about some new things on there, but also talking about the way that bookkeepers have moved into the cloud. I mean, it's a good job we have, really. I mean, ICB bookkeepers were very quick to adopt this. And I know even as late as last month, accountants were still saying, yes, we're all going to move towards the cloud. It's the new IT thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, look, guys, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. You know, we've been in the cloud for years. But it has made a big difference. And I think had that technology not been with us for the last 2 or 3 years, the whole world would have looked somewhat different to what it does now. So anyway, great for that. And then, of course, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the Inspire Tour. Now, we are getting a lot of people booking in for this, which is absolutely fantastic. That because it's on the cloud, there are spaces available. It's not a question of bums on seats. And that's a couple of hours on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That is a paid set for the 3 days. It's £45 for all 3 days. Once you've registered and once you've paid for that, then actually you get access either at the allotted time, or you then get to print them off or run them down, and you can look back at them at any stage. So you can hang on to them and do whatever you will, or look at them over the next couple of weeks, or look at them all on Thursday, or whatever you want to do with them. So they should be very, very interesting. We are starting with a piece on ethics. There's a catch-up on the anti-money laundering section, and that's very practical. That's all about what you need to do to make sure that your clients are compliant and that you remain compliant. So it's not just going to be hitting you with regulation number this, regulation number that. It's all about knowing your client. What does that mean? How do you do it? So it'll be good for you, many of you, just as a bit of a revision, a bit of a catch-up. But for those of you who are relatively new to this and you're just kicking off your practice, or you're just getting it rolling, it will be very useful, because it's very important to us all, and all of us as reputationally, and to make sure that we get things right. So that will be very helpful. We're then later in the week, we're doing things about your business, setting up systems to make sure your business works right, because we do find with a lot of our members, the business starts to run away with them as they pick up more and more clients, and by which time they realize that they haven't got systems, and then they haven't got enough time to put all those systems in. So it's good to get a bit of a line in the sand, as I always say, to try and get that sorted. And so, yeah, we've got some of our members talking about that. We've got some big presenters that we've brought in as well. So have a look on the website. It tells you all about them there. And that's next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I think at the moment we're planning another Thank Furlough It's Friday. We'll see how the week goes, but there will be something on every day. Jacquie.
Yeah, okay. Now I've got nothing more on my list of things. I think I've been through it all. Couple of things in the chat line. Pauline's just come back with her long-term sick leave. Thanks, Pauline. Yes, we were right. Employees are also entitled to furlough employees who are being shielded or off on long-term sick leave. It is up to the employers to decide whether to furlough the employees. So that's confirmation of what we said earlier. And Bev has come up with a question, says if weekly paid employees were furloughed on different weeks, you have to wait 3 weeks before making a claim. Do you need to wait until both employees have been furloughed for 3 weeks, i.e. claim after 4 weeks? If you don't want to wait, how do you claim for later furlough? Right. Difficult to say, but basically what I'll say is you claim between date A and date B. And if you can only make one claim for that period. So if you're paying, if you have an employee who is, say, furloughed for the first 3 weeks and then works for a week, and somebody goes off on furlough in that 4th week and works, then you've got to try and put the furlough dates in and the claim that you're going to make. And hopefully, if it goes over a period, what I don't think we've found yet is whether it's been rejected if the furlough is only for the first week carrying into the 2nd pay period. It's Friday afternoon, sorry guys. Lost my train of thought completely now, sorry. However, at the moment, I think most of us are claiming for March and April. Everyone I've spoken to is claiming for 2 months. So within that period, you should have both of your employees claiming their furlough for a minimum of 3 weeks. I think it's ongoing that there probably is about what happens. I think once they're furloughed, it's what you pay them in the pay period. So you can't pay someone in a period and then try and claim for it later, because it won't match up with the RTI. So I think you've got to match the RTI information that you're sending. I hope that makes sense, Bev. That went all the way around the houses to get to what I think is quite a simple answer.
If any of you have experience of clients who've been trying to get a loan from the bank and the clients are finding it very difficult, can you let us know what is going on and any experiences you have? I'd like to bring in somebody from, I don't know, the British Business Bank or somebody to talk about this, because I've heard this morning that some people are being told that, well, they've got equity and they've got houses and various other things, so they're not eligible for the C-Bills scheme. That's not what we thought was happening. We thought this was definitely separate to that. But it does mean that some people are being pushed into bank loans with quite extortionate interest rates, where that is not, as far as I'm aware, that is not what the government intended. No. The C-Bills is an interim system to try and help people continue their business. And, well, so I was thinking things were going quite well, and we've heard so many stories, including, if I remember rightly, Sarah Douglas was one of the first. She was really pleased with herself. She'd managed to secure a £200,000 C-Bills loan for her clients. So things at the beginning of the week seem to be going very well. Now I've heard possibly slightly to the contrary.
I think there are still issues with some of the individual banks. I think it was actually the Chancellor who announced that reserves would not be taken into consideration, and also that your primary residence wouldn't be included, and that you won't be asked to give a personal guarantee. I think if it's under £250,000, anything over that, you're being asked to guarantee the 20% that the government's not guaranteeing. Right.
So if any of the members out there have got information which is contrary to this, but you have to name banks and you know that sort of thing, because I can't go back with a "we've heard this is a problem" if I'm going to try and get through to the Chancellor. I need facts, so please let me have that, because I've done this in the past, gone in and they've said, "Oh, okay, who was it?" and then I'm floundering, so I won't do that again. I've got to go in there with proper facts. So I mean, is it Barclays? Is it NatWest? Is it one of the new challenger banks, or what? But please get that information to me, because it is important, and I don't want to leave it any longer than I have to go to government if in fact there is a major problem.
Maggie's asked a question: have run the payrolls, filed the RTI, and then made the CJIRS claim. Will there be an issue with already submitted RTIs? No, providing that you put the dates in, it should be able to match up with a previously submitted RTI. The queries that we had earlier in the week on Monday was whether you could actually apply in advance where you don't have an RTI to support it for the current month, say for the end of April. And that's when it said you can file, you can claim shortly before or during the payroll run. But I think you can also claim retrospectively because we're catching up. So that's fine. I think, Maggie, thank you. Pauline, I certainly agree. After all this is over, if I never hear the word furlough ever again, it will be too soon. I absolutely agree.
Hands up anybody who'd ever heard of furloughed before. It's not a word I'd come across, to be perfectly honest with you. Is it you?
It's American, isn't it? It's come from America. It's the USA term. I don't know why they picked that. I think it's for people who are being laid off in the States for whatever reason on a short-term basis. So it was a convenient term to use, I think I read somewhere. Have the employee asking if the furlough part of the staff's wages should it legally be on the payslip, or can they just include it in the gross? I think when we were talking to Julia at Sage, their software calculates it based on different pay elements. So we did say from the start that the furlough wage would be better split out and shown as a separate, because it's a different type of pay, and it would be better to split it down, particularly if you're paying holiday pay at 100% and furlough at 80%, you should split it, because I think, if I remember rightly, and one of the payroll specialists members will correct me on this, that from this April, you have to split out on your pay slip the different, if you're paying at different rates of pay, and you have to show it separately, if I remember. Usha, another question on weekly pay. After the first claim, are we able to claim on a weekly basis thereafter? As far as we understand, yes, as long as you put your start and finish dates in, you should be able to claim on a weekly basis. There's nothing I've seen that says you can only claim monthly. Angela, thanks for your help. I calculated the pension on the furloughed pay. HMRC apportion the qualified earnings on a daily basis, but my payroll software has calculated it for the month ending on the 28th. Now this is to do with what I said earlier, where I was going through the calculator and put my pay dates in as the 28th and got figures out that I hadn't actually expected. So the guidance states that the employer must pay the whole amount claimed to a pension scheme. Don't think this will be an issue when calculating for the full month. I don't think I can answer that one, Angela, because it's still very new, this calculator, and until we get some actual examples going through at the end of this month, when we start to claim part months and 4 months, I think this might come back. Fiona, hi Fiona. Yes, I heard the word, I assume she means furlough in regard to missionaries who are furloughed when they're perhaps not out at mission, doing their mission work. How do you reclaim SSP, Rod? How do you reclaim SSP for COVID-related sickness? The answer is through an HMRC portal, which has yet to be opened. So I don't think you can claim it back yet. Keep your records. I was reading about that on, I think it was, I think it might have been the Accounting Web newsletter, daily newsletter. There was a comment on that. And the answer is you can't claim it yet, but you will be able to claim it at some stage.
I've got a question here from Kylie, which is actually nothing to do with furloughing for a change. But Kylie is saying, when can I take my M8 exam? I'm ready to do it now. My Pearson View local centre has closed down. I understand that you'll be having furloughed exams so that I can sit this at home soon. Well, actually, they are already available, Kylie. They are now ready to go. So register through your training provider in a normal manner, or if not, register directly with ICB. You have to have your laptop and a telephone by your side, but it's all ready, it's there, it's ready to go. And no, the other question is, will I be charged extra for this? No, it's all part of the service. It comes out, however, in the normal way that we charge our exams. So if you're doing this through a training provider, normally your training provider will have covered it. If you're paying us direct, it's exactly the same fee it always has been. No jump in charge. We are there to encourage you and to help you. So good luck with your M8.
Suzanne's come back. Her question was about the splitting of the furlough pay from others. She said the reason for the query is to avoid gossip between the staff. Oh, that's a difficult one, because A, staff should never really talk about what they earn anyway with each other, because that is going to open up a whole can of worms that you don't even want to get involved in. And B, if you are treating your furloughing non-discriminatorily, big word for a Friday afternoon, you shouldn't have any problems with it. I try to stay well clear of queries like that. Anusha's come back and said, yes, Jackie, you're correct about the payslip. There should be a breakdown of all pay elements as well as holiday pay. Yes, thank you, Usha. I'd forgotten holiday pay. Oh, Judith, I like your comment. Thank you, everyone. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. And everyone, I think that says wine time soon. Oh, yes.
You mean it hasn't started yet? Who told me that? Right, okay.
It's still only 4:05. It's a little bit early.
Is it? All right, okay.
For my other half. If you have to take furlough blocks of 3 weeks, how can you claim? No. Right, okay, Miss B, if you have to take the furlough in blocks of 3 weeks, how can you claim back weekly? You don't claim back in 3 weeks. The first claim has to be for 3 weeks, a minimum, which is what covers March. So if you're, now that we're only opened the claim on Monday, what you're claiming back should, for everyone, cover a furlough of a minimum of 3 weeks. From then on, you can claim weekly. But it has to be, it's the first period only of 3 weeks. After that, you can claim weekly. Pauline is asking about taking the self-assessment module. Pauline, can I ask you to email into examinations at, I think it's examinations, is it Garry at bookkeepers.org.uk? The exams email address.
Yes, it is.
Examinations or exams?
Just exams.
Exams.
Yes.
Exams at
Yes.
bookkeepers.org.uk, and they will be able to answer what you need to do, because they have, under the new syllabus, they have a list of what you can and can't do. So if you'd like to email in, they'll be able to help you. Oh, hang on. In the HMRC webinar earlier this week, in the Q&A, thanks, Kevin, it states you can only submit one claim every 3 weeks if paid weekly. Employers can only submit one claim at least every 3 weeks, which, okay. Okay, guys, that changes the advice we've been given. Thank you for that, Kevin. So for weekly paid, you can only claim every 3 weeks. So your first claim covers more than 3 weeks, and then after that, it's not weekly, it's every 3 weeks. We will get something up on our hub, because if people have left, they'll get the wrong information.
Yeah.
Weekly. I missed that one.
And I've just been asked, apparently, to say hello to Kirsty St. John. She has missed the fact that I mentioned her name, although we answered the question. So hello, Kirsty. Kirsty, hello. Hello, Kirsty. Good. I don't mind that. So that was Kirsty St. John.
Judith,
Sorry.
I agree. Never too early for wine when you don't need to drive in it. You can tell it's Friday afternoon, can't you? You're all getting demob happy for the weekend.
Yeah, it's dress down Friday, which is why I'm not wearing a tie, which answers about 12 other questions. But that's only because I'm on Friday.
I've still got my dangly earrings in.
Yeah, well, this is it, yeah.
Only chance I get to dress up these days when I come on here.
I bet your neighbours wonder why you're walking down the garden dressed up to the nines, don't they?
But the silly thing is, you have to picture it's like the newsreaders. The top looks great, don't even go with the shoes and everything else, you know. It's not exactly pyjama bottoms, but...
Lovely, thank you, says Pauline.
Pam, if the staff are furloughed on the 24th of March, can the employee only claim 8 days for March? Then I think, no, you've got to claim for a minimum of 3 weeks, which is going to change quite a lot of what we've been saying today. So apologies to everyone for that.
Whilst you're going through those questions, I've got a question to pose, and people can think about this. They can bring me the answer on Monday if they get it. I mean, somebody might know it anyway, but just wondered if anybody can tell me who Sarah Harris-Smith was. Sarah Harris-Smith, lady from the 1800s. Quite a notorious lady, but I wonder if anybody could tell me who she is.
Right, Tom's come back. It's another one of this. This is going to rebound back on me. This one, isn't it? This weekly claim for furlough. What happens if a member of staff is furloughed for over 3 weeks? You claim the 3 weeks to find out that they're due to come off the furlough for another week or so. I'll need to, I think with all these weekly furlough, when I get all the list of all these questions, which Sobi will send me, I think I'm going to have to go through and look at the guidance we've given and rewrite our guidance for this. I think that will be better. I'll try and get that done for fairly early next week for everyone, folks, rather than try and answer all these now because it's changed. We'll look at the guidance we're giving. I'll look at the HMRC webinar and we'll come up with some updated guidance. Sorry for the confusions.
Karen is saying there, is the Inspire Tour schedule on the website? The search took me to the previous Real Place tour details. Karen, I have to be honest and say, I was struggling a bit to remember what the middle day of the 3 was, so I've just gone onto the web to find it. Yeah, I got the original one as well. So I'm trying very very carefully to find out somebody who knows what the link is and why that one's still on the website, but nobody tells me. So I'm waiting to hear on that. And as soon as I find out, hopefully within the next couple of minutes, then I'll let you know what the answer is.
Katie has come in on the webinar chat line. Thanks, Katie. When I spoke with HMRC, they told me to add COVID sick to the claim. Question mark.
What's on the website?
I didn't think there was a question for claiming back the amount of statutory sick pay you're claiming back. It would have made sense to have had it, but I'm not aware. So if someone who's worked through that claim, perhaps if there is a question on there asking you to add SSP, then perhaps someone can let us know. Lee, no, sorry, we don't know anything about deferring corporation tax payments. There is definitely a silence on that one. Pauline's come back about the state aid rules de minimis. Again, I'm going to take some advice on that. And we'll see if we can come back with some guidance on this. That's been rumbling around for about 3 weeks now. I have asked HMRC, but I'm not sure. The 8 days
Have you looked at the one at Lee? Do we have any news yet on deferring corporation tax?
Yeah, no, I said that. No, we haven't heard anything about deferring corporation tax payments. SSP we're still looking into because there seems to be a bit of a confusion. I was aware that the government hadn't said that you could claim it back. KTC says that HMRC have told her you can. Question from Facebook from Lee Wilcox. Hello, Lee. Sorry, just tuned in. I'm being paid furlough, but still being asked to work from home when there is something for me to do. Is that proper, or should they be paying your normal wage? They should be paying your normal wage. If you're furloughed, you cannot work for them. And it is against the rules for them to ask you to do that, and you should report them. I read it somewhere.
Absolutely.
So, no, if you're on furlough, you cannot do any work for them at all. And there are some, as you can imagine, there are some horror stories starting to go around about what certain slightly shady employers are asking people to do. So if you're working for them, they should pay your normal wage.
How do you get to that?
Resources events.
Right. Hi, just talking, going back now on the Inspire Tour 2020, as I say, I got through. What I did, I went through Google, and I think they picked up an old message, so it's not on the website now. So if you go into ICB website, obviously you all know bookkeepers.org.uk, hit the resources and then Inspire Tour, and it's their events. And then resources events, and then it will come under that. And it's full of some lovely graphics there, and I can assure you it is there. I've just been past it, so, and it does say at the bottom, T's and C's apply, which is a favourite phrase of Mrs. C, who is always obeyed around here. But anyway, carry on.
Oh, absolutely. Question on Facebook from Julia Williams. Hi, Julia. I have weekly and monthly employees on my payroll. So I have claimed for the last week of March and 4 weeks for April plus the monthly payroll. Will that be accepted? I think so. I think that's what most people are doing. I spoke to a number of our members who have got large payroll sections to their businesses, and yeah, that's what they're doing. They're claiming for everything up to the end of.
Hi, Sue Bruland as well. So I've just been asked. I did mention Sue before, actually, for her. Thank you for her kind words, but I think I might have just got a message that's a bit delayed, but I don't mind saying it twice.
Rod's just come up with a question. Are all self-assessment payments due on the 31st of July deferred to next January, or only for self-employed taxpayers? Well, the payments on the 31st are the payments in advance for the second payment in advance for the 1920 tax year. So I wasn't aware that anyone who wasn't self-employed was paying tax on the 31st of July, but I may be wrong. I may have missed something. So if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will come back.
And somebody's just come through. You are mentioning people by name. Are they paying you for this? No, Robert Davis, they're not. Hello, Robert. Nice to hear from you. They are definitely not paying me.
No. We're just reading the names out because you can't see who the questions are for, and we're reading.
Yeah.
questions.
Exactly.
Oh, and Sylvia. Hi, Sylvia's here. Name dropping here. Sylvia Borhill, who was on with you the other day, was saying, as missionaries, we took furlough every 4 years. So, yeah, it's...
yeah.
In fact, I had some neighbours who were missionaries, and they took a year out and came back home for a year. Tom. I think Tom, I've said I'm going to answer that one. I'll try and come back in writing for that one. I think that's most of them, Gary. I think we've covered most things.
Right, I think so. Thank you for the tremendous support for all bookkeepers, says Pauline. Thank you, Pauline. I'm not sure which Pauline you are. I've just tried to have a look, see if I can try and work it out, but we've got something like 1,000 Paulines on the website, on the database rather, so I couldn't figure that one out, but very nice of you to say that anyway, but it is what we're here for. Thank you very much, and yeah, that's good. I think, Jackie, we have come to the end of what we can really properly do at the moment. You know, it's another, it's nearly 4:20 now. Originally, when I twisted your arm behind your back to come on and do these things with me, I said it'll be over in an hour, but it has never managed to be finished in an hour as yet. And the other thing is that, of course, what people probably do realise, but if you don't, Jackie then sits here with all your questions, answering them in sort of email form and various other things. She then answers all the questions and it goes up onto our hub on the website. So don't forget resources. Go onto the COVID hub. That's everything is there. You can get it from various places, but you can't quite get the Jacquie Mount twist. So that's very important. You know, we.
The hospital called you to check him out.
So yeah, and so that's the main thing. I know many of you out there are finding it a bit tough at the moment. You've got some clients that are struggling, and then they're going to be struggling to pay your bill, but they still want you to do their furlough returns and everything else, and they're promising you that one day come the end of all this, you'll get everything. And it is a difficult decision. I absolutely do appreciate that. But we have to stay positive. We have to look on the bright side of this. We've got to get through this because, you know, we want to remain as bookkeepers. I know you all do. So let's do whatever we can on there. Talk to your other members. Join some of the branch meetings. They're all virtual now. They're online, but it gets you a chance to speak to other people. And because the numbers are slightly smaller on those, you tend to see the other people in the meetings as well. So you've got lots of nodding heads and hands up when you want to speak, etc. They're actually quite good fun. But the numbers there are probably, I think, 50, 60 in some cases, but as low as 30 in others. But it does give you an opportunity to see some other people because what is it they say? A problem shared is a problem doubled. But anyway, you know, it's there. And if you have got serious problems, please do talk to us. I'm not sure we can help other than try and give you a friendly voice to listen to, but we will do our best. Our girls are getting lots of good reports at the moment, and they are talking to people. And our gentlemen as well. I must say we have got one or two gents around there, but most people talk to us and they say they're getting good advice and they're getting good help. And I think we've caught up with all the emails now. So the number of phone calls has gone through the roof. The number of emails, unbelievable, but we are getting through them. Jackie, I know you've been answering a lot of emails.
Yeah.
You've slipped up on occasions and answered things on your mobile phone, and you're being inundated at all hours of the night from people who've got that.
No, it's not. People are being very good. Occasionally I've rang them back, but people are being very good and very good with my privacy. So thank you for that, guys. A lot of the emails are actually going back through member services, so it might take a little while longer, but that's so that it's not that I don't want to come back to you directly. It's just so that member services and everybody else has a full record of what's happening. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not answering them back myself.
And as many of you will have heard whilst we've been on air, Siri doesn't know the answer either. So on this occasion, so you can't ask Siri, you've got to ask Jackie. So there we are. So thank you very much, Jackie. It's been a good week, I think. We've still got big audiences, so we're going to continue with it until everybody goes home and we're talking to ourselves. Everybody, have a really good weekend. Ignore the fact that it's sunny and the temperatures are high. Be very careful. Don't go out meet and greet with all these people that you're dying to meet and greet. I know it's difficult, but you know, we can see that some people unfortunately are going down with this, and we need to try and cut that down. And anyway, so have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
I
Enjoy
will
the
see
Inspire
you
Tour. Good
Monday
luck with
next
it.
week. Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.